Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. Therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe, listen, like, and subscribe to our podcast on all of your podcast listening platforms, as well as on our new, check us out on our new YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go to YouTube, check us out on our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Again, that's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, where you will be able to find not only the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but also our sister podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where I talk to girl dads about the relationship of the daddy-daughter relationship in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. We even have daughters on sometimes also to talk about their relationship with their fathers. So it's a great podcast. You guys want to make sure that you check that out on its own, and subscribe to that podcast on your podcast listening platforms also. But make sure you guys go to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network in order to check out the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. So this week, our product of the week is our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner. So because I believe that we are to journal in order to keep track of where we've been and where we are in our lives, as well as plan for our futures. So make sure you guys go to the descriptions, look in the description below, and you'll see the links to the journal and the planner, which are both available on Amazon. But the links are in the description. Make sure you guys go and check out the descriptions anyway, because we have amazing information in the descriptions you don't want to miss about things coming up, about our guests, even some of the products that our guests may even have. It's all in the description. So make sure you guys go to the descriptions of the podcast in order to get all of that information. All right. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Scott. How you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Thank you for having me on again.
No problem, no problem. First of all, I want to say thank you for being here because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with us, and we definitely appreciate it. So, we're gonna jump right in it. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience, and let us know who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Okay. Again, thank you for having me on your forum to discuss these very important matters, especially to our Black community and especially to Black brothers. My name is Khalid Scott. I am a licensed clinical social worker and slash therapist slash author, administrator, mentor, speaker, dad, and a couple of
Right,
other more titles. And I've been doing the work of social work slash mental health for now 31 years. As you can see in my back wall, I'm kind of committed to this work that I do.
right.
And I'm really committed to now Black men and our mental wellness. Because I got this theory, Ernest, that if we're broken, then our women are broken, our children are broken, which leads to broken communities. And we
Yeah.
got to start healing and dealing.
Right. And that also really close to one of my sayings that I say even when we're talking about healing is when we heal ourselves, we heal our homes heal our communities, and our communities heal our world. And so, yeah, definitely starting with us as the men in the home to be able to start healing first, to be that lead, to start leading into healing the house. So yeah, we definitely gonna jump into that. But before we do, to my audience, you guys may not know, but I have had Khalid on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So make sure you guys go and check that out. The Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Go check out his episode. But since he is a girl dad, we'll just give you a little piece of that. Well, I'll ask you the same questions that I ask every girl dad when I have them on. What does it mean for you to be a girl dad, and what is something that your daughter has taught you?
Okay. What it means to be a girl dad is that was my number one role, or is my number one role in life. On August 21st, 2002, at 12:36 a.m., my life hit a chapter that was the best chapter of my life when I became Anaya Kathleen Scott's father. I tell people the story that I saw my baby come out the womb, and I was the first parent who held her. And I haven't let her go since, and that's been 22 years. And I take pride of my parenting of my daughter because as a social worker, I work everything from DCFS, and to mental health places, substance abuse, and everything in between. I've witnessed parents who forgot how important their role is as parents, and the children suffer. And here it is, for 31 years, I've been committed on helping everybody and their family and their children. I for sure was going to make sure mine was going to turn out right well. And she did. Next year, she'll be starting medical school. And right now, Ernest, with pride, she's a Fulbright Fellowship awardee. She's in Berlin, Germany, doing neuroscience research at the largest hospital in Europe. So, and I was a single dad, a divorced dad. And so when I became divorced when she was 10, my role, I went head first, really making sure that I was committed to my daughter because I was not going to raise another girl child to become a girl woman with daddy issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a difference. It truly makes a difference. So again, that's my number one role in life. And then your second question was what?
What is something that your daughter has taught you?
Oh, wow. Unconditional love. Unconditional love. You think you know it, and I thought I knew it because of my grandma. Your grandparents give you that good unconditional love. They just love you because you're breathing, right? And for me to have to give that love to another human being, my baby, hey, this is it right here. You know what I'm saying? And she let me know, or she motivated me even more to say, I wanted to give her the life that I knew I didn't experience. I didn't have a dad growing up one time, Ernest, but I've won this award, Father of the Year, 5 times because of my commitment to my child. So no excuses. No
Right,
excuses.
right.
Well, that's
Yeah,
it.
and I know that ain't the necessarily the topic that we was gonna hit on, but I do want to mention something about that because when I talk to fathers, because as a girl dad, myself number one, but also as a fatherless daughter advocate, when I do talk to fathers who are reconnecting, with their daughters or that is trying to figure that part out, a lot of them come from fatherless homes themselves. But I tell them, like, that's no excuse, because just like you learn anything else, you can learn to be a father. You just got to go and look for the resources,
Absolutely.
So I'm sure that other good men, other older men that you can get mentorship from. If not, I'm sure there's father groups and things like that where, because you didn't have a father yourself, you do have to learn some things and what that means and learn how to show up, for someone else, even though, that person may not have shown up for you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But it's the decision that you make. You know what I'm saying? It's the decision that you make. And then once you make that decision, your actions have to follow. So if you're going to be a good father, it doesn't matter whether your father was there or not. It's your responsibility to show up for your child. So I definitely appreciate you even taking that step and being that example, for that. And congratulations on your daughter too, going to Germany and all of her things. I learned German in high school. They made me take it. I don't know nothing, but I did pass it when I took it. So, so we gonna jump right into this topic though, which is very dear to me personally, because we're going to be talking about Black men and mental health. I just recently did my first TEDx talk. And I can talk about it now. What my subject was. My subject was suicidal ideations, right? And so I talked about my experience with suicidal ideations around the time that my mom passed away. There was a whole lot of other stuff that was going on at that time. My divorce was around that same time. My mom passed away. My mother-in-law, who I was really close to at the time, passed away also. So it was a lot of stuff going on, which put me into a deep depression. To the point that I was thinking about taking my own life. And afterwards, when I started this podcast, I started talking about it openly. And one of my sisters called me. It was like, how did you go through that? And none of us know. And I said, because we weren't having a conversation.
Right.
And so since then, I'm making a point to have the conversation with as many people as I can. And I bring it up on this podcast as many times as I can, because as men, number one, and as being Black men, growing up in a society and sometimes even our own homes where the norm was, what happens in the house stays in the house. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But we're dealing with things that we need help from, and we don't want to say nothing about it,
Right.
And so when we even talk about even with that, with the stereotypes that come along with that, as far as number one, just being men, men don't cry, you know what I mean, or be tough and all of that, in your practice, how much of a effect does even those stereotypes have on us as men, as Black men, hiding from our emotions and hiding and not feeling safe to share it, to our loved ones, let alone with one another?
Okay. Great question, Ernest. Great question. When I first went into private practice 3 years ago, September, it was, we were coming out of the pandemic. And I have this theory, Ernest, is that the pandemic changed all of us, either for the good or for the bad, right? And the reason why it was so intense, because first of all, none of us had ever lived through a pandemic, right? The last pandemic was in 1919. the Spanish flu, you know, and I don't think too many of us are around, you know,
Right.
over years ago, right?
I definitely wasn't around.
Right, right. And so, wow, it's like one day we was getting up, doing our thing, going to work, doing our, you know, day to day. Then the next day, stay home, stay home. What? And then we realized being at home every day, whether you lived by yourself or you had a family or what have you, you really got to know who you were and who you weren't, right? You got to discover the people who lived with you, right? Because now you're with them 24/7. You don't get to just mask everything and go about your business. You don't get to go up, get up in the morning, go to work, go to the gym, go and get your nails done, go to the bar, whatever your activities were. You had to stay put. And then you turned on the TV and we watched black men getting killed by the people who were supposed to protect us, police.
Right.
Right? So here it is. We're dealing with a pandemic, and then we're dealing with another pandemic called police brutality. George Floyd, right? So imagine what that was doing to black men. The one thing that we relish in is what? Our work, right? That's part of your manhood is your work, but you're not working. Or you're working from home and having to navigate that, you know? So then through those 2.5 years, I was getting calls literally daily, Ernest, from women. Khalid, I don't like my husband. From men, Khalid, I don't like my wife. I don't like my kids because the kids were at home on their laptops.
Right.
You know, we got a glimpse of what the teachers had to deal with, right?
Right.
Yeah. But now we have to be, we're there. So then it hit me like, you know what? There's a real need for me to be in private practice, take my career to the next level. Because I was already doing practice, but I was going into the homes of DCFS children, foster kids. And then this phenomenon happened about, you know, virtual sessions, right? You know, to still be able to do, you know, therapy, but do it from your home, on your laptop or your cell phone, right? So then I went into private practice with my partner, Dr. Jenny Kristerner at International High Achievers. And boy, I tell you, man, it's been a wonderful ride for these 3 years. Because at first, Ernest, I was getting women calling me for men. Hey, Dr. Scott, you know, my husband and me need therapy because our marriage is on the brink of destruction.
Right.
Hey, Dr. Scott, my son needs therapy. He's really depressed. My brother, my nephew, my grandson, my godson. Then about a year and a half ago, things start shifting. I was getting direct calls from men. So right now, I have about 15 African-American men in therapy. Now, somebody might be saying, "And if you worked in this industry to know that black men are paying money to sit in front of a therapist to talk about their vulnerabilities, it's phenomenal." And I have a wait list. And most clinicians that I know who are in private practice, we have wait lists, men and women wanting to be in therapy. And then the therapy, wow. Talking about stereotypes. And my clients range from heads of companies to the janitor in the building and everybody in between. And these are what society would call the men's men. Right. The guys who watch football every Sunday and Monday and eat buffalo wings and drink beer and, you know, get under a car and fix a car. But they were masking all of these problems. So I've had everything to deal with, from childhood sexual abuse to physical abuse to, God, I'm not a football player no more. I'm not a basketball player. How do I live life off the court, off the field? But all 15 men, you ready for this, Ernest? their primary reason for being in therapy, which led them to seeing me, relationship issues.
Mm.
So when people think that Black men don't care about our relationships, we do. But what happens is, because we're going back to what I said earlier, because we are broken, we have broken the people we're in relationships with, the women we're in relationships with, which in turn will break your children, and in turn will break down your community. So when we
Right.
wonder why the Black community is like it is, that's why, because though we're men, though we are macho, though we're masculine, we're broken boys internally.
Yeah. And
And
I want to touch on that a little bit too, because even with when you're saying that, the macho man, the man's man, right? And so I work in construction, right? I'm a bricklayer by trade,
right,
and so one of the things that I talked about, and I mentioned earlier about my bout with suicidal ideation and why I talk so openly about it. Well, in the construction field as a whole, suicide is high. You know what I mean? I don't think we're. I think we may be in the top 10 of professions. Um, but just also knowing that, but knowing the environment in which I work, because we feel like we're the men's men and we're the tough guys, and so none of us want to show weakness, and all of us want to be, the best at what we do. It makes it so hard for us to find the spaces to be like, you know what, I'm dealing with this. I'm hurting here, or I've dealt with this, whatever it is, to be vulnerable as men, first of all, just as men in general, but then especially in a profession that is so male dominated and so competitive. It goes back to what you were saying, just those stereotypes. It's like, no, I can't say I'm dealing with this. I can't say I'm hurt. You know what I mean? I can't show any kinds of emotion or weakness among all these men, because then they're gonna think I'm weak. So I definitely know that. But one of the things, like, again, myself, I'm very open about my experience, even going through divorce, even dealing with depression, as well as the suicide ideations. I'm very vocal about it because I want to break those stereotypes, and let other men know, look, we can be vulnerable with one another. We can share our emotions with one another and how we feel. And the more we do it, the more open it becomes. And then it won't be so uncomfortable. You know what I
correct.
mean? Because we can just accept ourselves as we are without looking or feeling like it's a weakness for us to do so. And so definitely, even with that showing up in our relationships, because of course relationships, it's definitely going to show there, probably, and did more so than anybody, because the person that you're in relationship with is generally the person that you want to be the most vulnerable with.
That's
But
right. Right.
sometimes you're afraid, even with that, because it's like, well, if I'm gonna say something and it's gonna come back to me some other way, or maybe held against me, and all of those things. But one of the things that I found is just talking to women a lot of times in relationships is like, you know what? They don't even think that they know we have emotions, but it's like they don't really think that we feel emotions. It was like, oh, when you guys break up, you just move on and whatever, and when you guys, treat women to however. I'm like, no, we feel too. I've been divorced before. I know what that feels like. I was hurt going through my divorce. I was hurt when my mom passed. All of these different things. Like, yeah, I have emotions too. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And so, but I think in relationships is where it's one of those spaces that, like I said, we want to be vulnerable, but I still think it's still kind of hard for a lot of us.
Absolutely. Because again, when we're vulnerable, right, that means you're open. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're open, you're real tender, right? And when you open up, you're thinking, if I'm opening up, that means I can trust you. So if you betray that trust, oh no, you'll never get it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when we get cheated on or heartbroken, it takes that one time for a dude. And
Yeah.
we like, she ruined it everybody from this point on, you know? So, and then that's our mentality, because again, and especially the world we live in, the society we walk in, that tells especially us black men, what? You're supposed to be the strongest men on earth, right? Because what are we known for? Our sexual prowessness and our athleticism, right?
Right.
So people take the strength of our bodies and think it correlates with the strength of our mental and our emotion. Most men need to work on their emotional intelligence, right? Because the reality is men are both like any other human beings. We're emotional and we're logical. But again, the world tells us men to be what? More logical, more rational, and subdue the emotional part. And it's getting us in trouble. And then when we do become emotional, we take it to the 10th power, right? And then things go wrong. And evidence of what I'm talking about, look what happened last week when President Obama went into that room and talked to black men. And the reality is, Ernest, he didn't say anything that was insulting. That was barbershop talk. But because us black men are so broken, we heard it with broken ears. We heard it with broken ears. Then he was telling us to vote for a black woman. Well, you just said it, Ernest. Many of us, think about it, have been broken and hurt by who? Our black women. Mama, wife, girlfriends. Both me and you are ex-husbands. We had wives who broke our hearts. You know what I'm saying? And we had to heal from that. Right. But a whole lot of men haven't.
And a whole lot of men.
Right. And when I talk to a lot of my patients and even the veterans, when I get background social history, a lot of stuff happened at them as children. They were let down by who? Mom and dad. You know what I'm saying? So it's a domino effect. And that's what me and so many other clinicians are working on, how to heal broken people. How to heal broken people.
Yeah, and that's what, and I want to talk to that too, because I think that's the journey, you know, that's most important right here in this space that we're on, especially as men. It's like, all right, we're on this journey of healing. So that's where we really want to get to, because again, once we heal, then we can begin to repair ourselves, repair our families, you know, and then which in turn will, you know, heal our communities, you know. And so just, you know, generally when I'm talking, you know, about the healing process, as where I teach it, first thing I'd like to address is just acknowledgement of the fact that, you know, you're hurting in some space, you know. And I think that as men, just that within itself is while it seems like a small step, it's a big step at the same time. Because again, it goes back to that not want to show weakness, not want to, you know, be vulnerable, and just admit, you know, to ourselves first of all, and then to anyone else that, you know what, I was hurt behind that. You know, what you said hurt my feelings. You know, what you did, you know, hurt me emotionally, and we don't want to even admit that to ourselves. So even in your practice, as you're working with us as men, you know, how important is that, and how hard does that seem to be, you know, for the men that actually come looking for help? Because like you said, they're paying for it. So it's like, hey, they're coming for the help, but yet even when they get in that room, you know what I'm saying, how hard is it for them to really to open up and say, you know what, I'm dealing with this? Or is it still, you know, like they're reaching for help at the same time, but it's kind of like, it's still a struggle there to admit that, okay, I have some things going on with me.
Okay. By the time I turn on my camera and getting ready to do the first session, half the battle was over with, because they showed up. Mm-hmm. See, they did all the fighting and battling in their head prior to calling me.
Right.
When they went online or somebody told them about me or another clinician, and they said, yeah, I do need to see somebody. They've already did this. They already did that homework, that work. Now it's, let me get in front of this clinician, and hopefully this clinician makes me comfortable to open up. So when I'm meeting with these men, so at my daytime job, I work for the federal government. I work at the VA hospital. I have 40 mostly African-American male veterans I'm working with. And then in the private practice, about 15. So what happens is I'm familiar because why? I'm a Black male. 5 years old. I've been married. I've divorced. I've been in relationships. Grew up in a single parent home. Lived in the hood. So we have like experiences. Now I'm sitting in front of somebody who could be my brother, my cousin, my best friend. Then it's another Black male. So it's somebody who looks like me. And please know that makes a difference.
Yeah.
In your comfortability. And then I let them know that I'm emotionally intelligent, which means I'm 50-50. I have emotional foundation and I have a rational foundation, and I know how to marry the two. So I know how to show up the right way. So when my clients are being vulnerable, I don't do the, man, shut up and man up.
Right.
Why are you feeling this way in this moment? Bring me into where your head is at. And then when I have to get on them, hey, brother, you said you want to salvage your marriage. You can't have a mistress no more. That's real talk. You got to be committed to your family. So I know how to be a chameleon, even in sessions, right? I know how to be a chameleon. And so the first session, I'm making them feel comfortable. So it feels like, though we're doing therapy, right? It feels like I'm talking to my guy, my boy, this trusted person who is unbiased, who ain't judging me. Then how I even set my office up. Look what's behind me. All that paper. So now they know, oh, I'm talking to somebody who kind of know what he's talking about.
Right.
Having a gossiping or a barbershop session with and somebody just listening. This guy is dedicated to this work. And then I give them homework assignments every session, because just because therapy stops in 50 minutes, I still need you to do the work the other 363 hours of the week. It can't stop, because now we're in your healing journey.
Right.
And even let me tell you this, and it's amazing. Some of my clients, when I'm like, well, you know what? You did it. You're doing really good. I think it's ready for termination. You should see the look. They like, what? What you mean, Doc? Man, you're doing good. You're ready to graduate. Doc, I mean, man, why are you doing that? I'm like, what do you mean, why am I doing that? You're good. I would not let you graduate from therapy if you weren't good. No, Doc, I ain't ready. And I've even had some clients sabotage where they backpedaled. And I'm like, why did you do that? But the clinician in me knows they built security around me. But that's the work also, that I got to help you transition where you can stand on your own. To be dependent on another human being. You got this. Because why? I preach self-love every session. Don't put your eggs in a basket thinking that other people are supposed to fill the gaps that's in you. You have to fill those gaps. Everybody around you complements your life. So how can you go wrong with that? And it's working, man. It's really working.
One of the things you said that I think is so key that you mentioned is when you start to ask them questions and make them verbalize how they feel. I think that is so important. Even as a mentor now to young men, that's one of the things that I tell them, like, okay, Number one, I told them watch your words, right? Use your words, invest in a thesaurus, right? And then there's this book that I picked up called the Emotional Thesaurus, right? So now not only do I want you to have the words, but I want you to have different words to really to be able to express how you feel, right? In a way that it can be received, you know what I'm saying? And that you can get it what's off whatever that's on your chest, you can get it off your chest without being combative or without being negative or without being confrontational. Like you can really find the words to express what it is that you're feeling. And so, man, I know that that's important for our young guys, but it's definitely important for us as men to be able to find the words, the right words, to say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I'm dealing with, this is what I'm dealing with. And even this is how I'm dealing with it, like mentally, because sometimes we can be vague in our description, like, oh yeah, I'm good. But no, this is really how this is making me feel. It's making me feel sad when I go home on Sundays and I can't call my mom no more. When I used to call her every Sunday, but now since she's passed, I can't call no more. This is really making me feel some type of way, and really giving us the words and making us kind of forcing us to speak the words out of our mouth. I think that is so important as men that we do that. Another thing that you said that I want to hit on before we get out of here, you mentioned about gaining their trust because you look like them, right? And gaining their trust because you have like-minded experiences. But one of the things that you mentioned is the wall behind you, which is all your paperwork. And so I know when we came on, I told you, I said, I'm gonna ask you, what does all these letters stand for, right? Because I definitely want to, growing up in the church and being a minister of the church, one of the things we always saw, give honor where honor is due. So I definitely want to recognize your hard work, to achieve all these letters that I don't know what they mean. And so before we get out of here, do me a favor, just tell me what the letters mean, and then also what it means to you, since we're talking about emotions, because I know that each one of those was a stepping stone in not only the line of work that you do, but even like now with the conversation that we're having, to be able to gain the trust and gain the knowledge and the wisdom to now to be able to have conversations with men, one, but then black men, in order to help us to heal. I know that was a process. And so, explain to us and me what the letters mean, just so we can know, because I have no idea.
Got you. So again, I'm a social worker and therapist by trade. And when you work in our industry, the expectation is you have a level of expertise, especially in dealing with the psychosis and the psychology of the mind.
Right.
Because think about it, we work with people who have experienced drama and trauma in their life. And our main mission is for people to live better lives. Well, in order for us to do that work, education is primary, and we never stop learning. In order for me to maintain all these licensures and certifications, I have to do yearly trainings and classes, to keep my credentials updated, right? And to keep me sharp, because you're growing, you know what I'm saying? So the first one, LCSW, stands for Licensed Clinical Social Worker. So what that means is I have a master's in social work, an MSW, and then you take this grueling test, right? 4-hour test that you have to pass. And usually a whole lot of us fail this test often, right? Luckily, I passed it first time. I needed a 101. I got a 101, and the next credential is CADC, Certified Alcohol and Drug Counselor. So when I was doing addictions, this was the certification you needed. Then licensed practitioner of the healing arts. So again, that means that the healing arts is the social work, the mental health, and I'm licensed and a practitioner to practice this. C-Well is when I worked with DCFS children, foster children, and I was a foster care supervisor, right? That's certified it's I'm sorry, child welfare employee license. And then the C-SWHC, that's certified social work and hospital continuum. So again, now that I work in a hospital setting with the veterans, I got this certification to say, hey, I know how to serve clients in a hospital setting. And now I have 3 more other credentials that just couldn't fit on the line.
Right. You have to take your name off.
Right. The reality is, I'm a Black male who works in a white woman dominated field, social work.
Mm-hmm.
Social work was started by a white woman. Her name was Jane Addams back in the 1800s, right? And so the number one population is white women. The second largest population is Black women. Us Black men are the bottom of the totem pole. Mm-hmm. So you remember what your grandma, your parents used to tell you? Whatever you do, you got to be quadruple better.
Mm-hmm.
As a Black man, I had to get these papers. I had to get these credentials because I had to prove to me and I had to prove to the industry I work in that I'm very committed and I'm smart. Because again, Black men are not known for this muscle. We're known for this muscle. So now you got to prove them differently. Mm-hmm. And I've so far, God's blessing, I've won 27 awards in social work. You know what I'm saying? So, and I've been blessed ever since. So that's my little background.
All right. So congratulations. I definitely appreciate the work that you do. Definitely, number one, representing us, you know what I'm saying? And then working with us, you know what I mean? And so I definitely appreciate it. We definitely will have you on again, you know, at some point. We'll come in and have another conversation. This is our second conversation. Also, to my audience, make sure you guys go check out our episode on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. It is up in public already, so make sure you guys go check that out. I want you to leave us with I want you to have the last word, right? I want you to leave us with a word of advice or whatever, however you want to leave us, and definitely leave us also with your contact information, so that if any of other of us want to get in contact with you and join that wait list, you know what I mean, to be able to work with you, that we have that information. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. To my audience, thank you guys, of course, for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you guys have ever thought about starting your own podcast, you guys might want to go get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook that I wrote. I wrote an ebook because I was often being asked, how do you start a podcast? So I wrote an ebook about it, and you can find it at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, if you want to start your own podcast, get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook at ebooksbyejames.com. Also, make sure you guys go to my main website, which is dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, because that is my mission, as well as the mission of this podcast, which is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So make sure you guys go there. You can find out more about me and the things that I have going on. Also, you can find the page to book me to come out to hold either a workshop or to be a speaker at your school or your organization. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org. Make sure you guys go there and check that out. Also, make sure you guys go check out my other ebooks that I have available at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, we talked about the Start Your Podcast Now ebook is there. The Core 4, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father, is also an ebook there. That ebook is one of the things that we talk about on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So you want to make sure that you get your copy of that ebook so that you have it when you go listen to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So you'll know what we're talking about. Again, so that's ebooks by ejames.com. There's also other ebooks there for you guys to check out. So make sure you go and check them out. Also, Deal to Heal Tees is our inspirational t-shirt line. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Again, that's Deal, the number 2, healtees.com, which is our inspirational t-shirt line. And also, outside of our inspirational tees, we also have our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about forgiveness. Who is forgiveness for? What does it mean to forgive? Forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, just everything surrounding forgiveness. It's absolutely free. So whenever you're listening to this, either one just ended or there's one coming up. Again, it's 100% free virtual workshop. The workshop is free, but the information is priceless. So make sure you go to forgivenessmission.com and sign up for our next free virtual workshop. Or you can go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop held by the Forgiveness Mission and sign up there. Again, it's absolutely free, but the information is priceless. So make sure you guys go and sign up for that. Mr. Scott, yes. Once again, I want to say thank you for being a guest on this podcast, as well as the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Always a pleasure to have you on. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
All right. I want to address, because we were talking about black men in this episode, and what I want to address with the brothers is this. Your strength comes from your vulnerability. Your strength comes from your transparency. Your strength comes the day you decide that you matter and that you want to be whole, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, wellness. Start having the best love affair with yourself. And I'm going to say that again because we're not taught to believe that. Have the best love affair with you first. And when you can love yourself with an agape love, A-G-A-P-E, agape love, then love will come to you, and love will be fruitful, and love will be sustaining, and love will be good. And I think that's what we're all looking for, some good love. But start with you. And Ernest, listen, man, much love to you for having this forum. Usually when I do these forums, they're very women-driven. So to have a brother around my age, single dad, divorced, who can be doing anything else right about now, including watching football games, right? But you're committed on uplifting our community. So blessings to you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. And also give us your social media information where we can find you.
Okay. So I'm on all social media platforms under my name, Khalid Scott. My telephone number for possible referral for therapy is 312-43-SCOTT, S-C-O-T-T, 312-437-2688. And then you can find me on my www. Psychology Today under my name, Khalid Scott. And then also my website for their private practice is www.internationalhighachiever.net.
All right. And we can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealtees.com. shop.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.